Hey,
Hello, how's it going?
it's going. How about you?
Good, thanks. Yep, things
Good.
have been nonstop since the last 2 or 3 weeks, but in a good way.
Yeah. Is it all the serving that you're doing, or is it in addition to that and then the positive, whatever it is, positive intelligence, positive psychology? I can never remember what it's called. PQ.
Well, it's got two things. There's positive intelligence, and
Yeah,
PQ is your
the
positive
quotient.
quotient, which is, yeah, so it's confusing. I get you. Yeah, and um, starting coaching soon with my coach, so that's going to be exciting.
Awesome. So what did
Yeah.
you end up doing? You said you were going to talk to her, right? The
Yeah,
gal?
exactly. And I reached out, and what's funny is that she reached out almost at exactly the same time. I was saying, like, look, how can we make it easy and fun? And I was like, well, that's great that you say that because she's like, let's just wipe all that out, start over, because I know that she knows that I'm invested and that I want to do this. Like,
Mhm.
but and I was like, I really do want to reach over that hurdle of making that amount of money and spending it, investing it in me.
Mhm.
But I also want to get started. And if I believe in that, if I, in the sense that if I believe that doing that is going to actually make the revenue come in, it makes more sense for me to get started right away. So we just negotiated, like, all right, let's just bring it down to, like, take a 3 month engagement. I'll be able to start that right away. It won't sting as much, which kind of sucks, but which is a funny thing to say. But I've lived through that. I was willing to do it anyway. It's just I want to get started sooner. And it
Mhm.
just highlights the whole idea that all this is made up anyway, right?
Right.
And we just created something different. So we'll
Okay.
start soon.
When is soon for you?
Um, I've talked to my wife. We've released the funds, so I can do any time. I have a question about her the release that I want to review with her, and I want to finish this last little bit of contract that I've done. So honestly, early next week would be great.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
great.
And I did a proposal yesterday for 15,000 that was pretty edgy. I I sincerely doubted that it wasn't going to get no. I sincerely doubted that it was going to get approved, given the person's avowed financial situation. So we're I'm doing the thing where we're evaluating how we can do a custom program for her, and I'm waiting to hear back from her. So that would be interesting.
And is that coaching or is that more
Coaching.
on the okay.
Yeah, because I'm trying to avoid the that's not true. I'm not putting any effort into finding consulting clients. I
Okay.
just really want to serve. I want to coach, and I
Yeah.
think I'm that's where I'm at my best. Like, I'm really thinking about where is my zone of genius, and more
Yeah.
importantly, like, how I'm going to put this. I'd like to think that so I calculated, and I have about 50 to 60 calls that I've managed to remember track, coaching calls in all, like, since I started. And I was like, first, that doesn't really sound like that all that much. And two, I've upgraded so much that I kind of just want to start over and say, okay, I want 100 powerful conversations from this point where where I really feel like they are powerful conversations,
Hmm.
to see, to understand more about who I can help, how I work, who I work best with, and just really
Hmm.
understand. Because I seem to be attracting creative people a lot, which is interesting.
Yeah. That's cool. And so how are you, if you don't mind me asking, since it's just you and I, do you know if anyone else is coming?
I checked on the WhatsApp, but I don't think.
Paula's not coming.
Yeah,
I didn't
Paula,
know.
you, me, and Nicolette were the most usual people. Marquise pops up when he can. I don't know what
Michelle's been
Sanjay's
busy.
up to. Yeah.
And Sanjay, sorry,
Yes.
we're tearing up our basement.
Haha.
And oh,
Mineral wool
just
or insulation.
old carpet, like really old carpet, like 80s
Ooh,
carpet.
nice.
Like it's needed to go. Yeah, anyways. So I was just asking you how you came about those conversations.
One you might know, it was that was one. It's just like I'd worked with someone previously, and a question popped into my head, and I thought I'll just ask them. I'll ask if I can ask them first because I don't like to blindside people with coaching questions, but basically said, hey, you know what? I thought of three things today, and a question for you is one of them. Do you want to hear it? It's kind of coachy, so I'm asking for permission first. And from there, we had that conversation, which I think I've told you about. Like they pulled away immediately because when I invited them to a coaching conversation, because they said, I don't have any money.
Yeah.
Right. So, well, that went great. So told her I didn't care. We set up expectations, set up the call. Call went great. And by the end, she was like, you know what? I really kind of do want to know what it looks like to work with you because this has been super helpful. And now I want more of this. So.
But how do you propose, like, so, okay, sorry.
No,
How
go
do you
ahead.
get to that point?
That
Are
point.
these friends? Are these networking people? Are you?
Well, this was a person that I'd worked with before, like, and not even paid, just like I had given a free. So I go into my network. I'm part of something called the Ramit's Brain Trust alumni, which is basically it was a paid program for people who wanted to become, for top performers and aspiring top performers to join. And it was basically a big community, a Facebook group that arranged meetups and stuff like that, and offered support, that sort of thing. Along with every month, there was like as high value content, like with like a top performer in the field of systematizing your business, or uh, Selena Sue, like, which is like get known, get clients, I think. So she was a visitor. So every month you had like a 1.5 hour to 2 hour video about a top performer in a specific field, and then you had that community. So I went in there and I would just say like, hey guys, we had something called office hours. So I said, hey, here are my office hours. I've got 2 slots for the month. Well, I'll just, like I did yesterday, I said I got 2 slots for the week of July. First 2 people who come up get them, and it's like, we're going to talk about only one thing: what you want, how you're keeping it away, and what's possible. I know that sounds like 3 things, but that's all basically the same thing.
Oh yeah, all related.
And I said, and that's it. It's going to be intense, and it couldn't change your life, but who knows until we have it. And it's the kind of conversation where you go and look things looking one way and things look completely different on the other side. But then again, who knows until we both show up and have it. So if that even sparked anything in you, if you really felt excited, let me know in the comments. And I think this time I even said, what I require of you is a strong yes. If you're really a strong yes, then let's have a call. Because I don't like going to, sure, that sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
Get away with that weak mess. I don't care. I don't have time for that. That sounds fun. So
Right.
I make a powerful request in my, or a powerful offer. And so I'd done this easily 30 or 40 times. Like many of the 50 or 60 calls that I'd had came from that particular pool, whatever.
Okay.
And so that's a really good way of getting people who, like, because just because you're in that network, you already automatically kind of have that that sort of credibility, which helped. But like I said, the first 40, 50 calls, I had one person who became a client out of it, another person who was a hell yes, and then kind of ghosted me after that. So, And then after that was just a bunch of like people who were like, I don't want to commit, or like the conversations weren't as powerful as they could have been, I feel. And once I was approaching it differently, that's when I started noting the responses. One, because I was less attached to it. Now I could feel like I was less attached to it, to the point where I don't even bring it up. They say like, so what would it look like to work with you? Which is a really great shift for me. I
Mhm.
hated the feeling at the end of saying like, so do you want to,
Right.
I hated that
So is
dynamic.
that the change? You said so when I changed, I really noticed things.
Yeah, there there are three things about me that changed. One, working with the coach that I was going to work now, I really tapped into being and feeling powerful.
Mhm.
Um, because it's not something I ever sought. I never sought power, so power to me was weird. Was this kind of weird concept, but to just go in and say like, to be able to tap in and feel powerful and just approach things from that perspective, and not let myself slide back into bad ways of looking at things. A really good example would be like, I walked by a neighbor's house yesterday, and I noticed that not yesterday, but last week, he had his big house. He has a Tesla and another luxury car, in front of
Mhm.
his house. And I almost said, because I know he's in technology, and a part of me almost said like, oh, maybe technology is still a good way to make money. And I stopped myself right in the moment. I said, nope, from this moment on, I am attracting money. I'm not going to go to where money is. Money's going to come to me
Mhm.
based on who I am and how I show up.
Mhm.
That was liberating
I just got
because,
chills.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that kind of shift and always showing up in that way was really powerful for me because I didn't used to before. And working with another coach, he helped me understand, one, I wasn't willing to be uncomfortable. Like I think I talked about this before. I didn't want to make other people uncomfortable, but really it's that I didn't want to make me uncomfortable by pushing too much on other people.
Mhm.
Once I knew that, I can just flip the switch and go, okay, cool. Now my job is to make them uncomfortable. I'm not necessarily going to like it, but it's my job now. I'm not doing this because it's fun. I'm doing it because or I want to make it fun because it's my job. And the less attached I am to how I look or the outcome, the better I can coach, because I can just go, no, I don't believe that for a second, or
Mhm.
whatever. Right. And the other thing was just a framework. He was very good at building out and explaining to me like, okay, well, there's Rich's method. That's great. But there's also just the framework of how do you make it yours? How do you like tap into what you really care about and not just borrow Rich's words, but speak your own?
Mhm.
And one of the examples they gave me that I love is like, if you look at someone and say, I will serve you more powerfully than anyone has ever served you before, more deeply than anyone has ever served you before. I will listen to you in a way that no one listens to you. You're setting, not only are you setting the stage for them, but you're setting yourself up. Like I can't, it's, oh, they've already worked this way. Well, shit, I got to go deeper because I committed to this. So like, I got to go as deep as possible, even deeper, until there is like, no, like, oh yeah, I know, or, oh, I've worked on this or whatever. Right. It's just, that's what I committed to. I literally said that that's what I was going to do. I have no choice. So it really helps that I'm not worried about caring. We call it like caring so much that you don't care.
Mm. And that's with the results of your clients. So you're going to show up so deeply that they've never been served that deep before.
Mm.
So that sets a precedence for you and them. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, if you listen to like, yes, basically, like there's a part of it, and I think it's subtle, and I don't think we're always aware of it, but when it happens, it's really powerful. And it's like, it can be tough to look at someone saying, I'm going to rock your world, or I'm going to I'm gonna,
Right.
right? I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna listen. It's not gonna be fun. Sometimes it's gonna be fun, but it's gonna be uncomfortable, or it's gonna be powerful. And that means there's gonna be the whole range of emotions. It's gonna be messy, but it's gonna serve you, and I will serve you more powerfully than anyone has ever served you. Like, to say that out loud and believe it and
Yeah.
commit to it, people feel that, versus, well, we're going to talk about it for a little while, and I guess, I can feel my energy retreating just as I think about it. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to be this and it's going to be that. So like, no, no, look, this is going to be awesome. It'll be intense, but it's in your service. And already you're bracing them, right? Because we're
Yeah.
coaches. Like, I want to draw them out and put them to the edge.
Yeah. And what I love about that is I'm so intrigued. That's why I'm asking. So selfish, but it's exciting to see because you can see a shift in you
Hmm.
from, in spring to now. Um, but I wonder if that also brings more serious people to you, because if you're not serious, you're not going to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But if you're kind of, well, we'll have a conversation and see if it's a good fit, and like you're dipping your toe in and they're like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll dip my toe in.
Yeah. That's why I say, like, I'm sure I have I'm sure I have the request or the offer, but I get more and more intense with my offers, because it's like, I want people to go, like, you know what I mean? Like, feel that flame, like that part of them that they've kind of been ignoring, or like that they've, it's like, oh, I'm good, I'm okay. Um, they can keep going. A lot of us are like asleep or living our default life, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, shit, this person just slapped me in the face with their offer.
Yes.
Because that's where we're at. It's like, if we're timid, like, they're just going to get that energy. Like, we have to model what we're saying, right? I live every day. I live my life a little bit more the way I want to, or I'm, well, like we were saying, right? We're both trying to be the best coach in the world. It's
Yeah.
like, every day, one step, no matter how uncomfortable. If anything, I'll take guaranteed one uncomfortable step every day, and if I can, I'll take more.
Yeah.
It's just, so yeah, it's, hi gang, I have a slot for two deep generative conversations. Oops, conversation. Two deep generative. Oh, there we go. I have two slots for a deep generative conversation before the end of July. We'll talk about one thing: what you want most in life right now, how you're keeping it away, what's truly possible. It still feels funny to me. This is the type of powerful conversation. And I like that, the type of powerful conversation where life looks one way going in, and it can shift to look completely different on the other side of it. Or maybe not. Who knows, until we both show up to create it. If the possibility of having this conversation sparked a flame in your heart, let me know in the comments, and let's make it happen. First come, first served, with a twist. I require a powerful yes from you. Let's do this. So
That's really cool.
yeah, and
Was there more? I felt like I maybe cut you off.
no,
I'm
no, that's
sorry.
it. That was it. And yeah, I think it attracts the kind of people who are like, oh shit, okay, it's not just, eh, and but even if they were, like, to a certain point, it is our job to cut to the core. It's like, it's uncomfortable for me, so I'm getting used to it. But even when I'm meeting someone in my network, from a point of view, I like to go, like, so, well, it's nice and all that, but why are you here? And I go, like, what do you mean, why am I here? Like, you mean, why am I here today? Or like the big, why am I here? I'm like, pick one. But I like the big one, if you're willing to go there. Because then the people talk about, like, oh, it's going great, but I kind of been checking the boxes. Or I was talking to someone at at Facebook, and they were saying, like, it's going great, but I kind of feel like I'm checking off the boxes. I got kids, the house, the wife, and then, not in that order, but and he's like, but yeah, the big, why am I here? I don't know. And it's like, cool, because that's the kind of conversation I want to have. It's like, you can have any other conversation with anyone else, but let's make this focused. Let's make this interesting. Like, we've only got so many years to go. Like, why would you want to waste any of them not thinking about what you want and how you can build something awesome?
Right, right.
Anyway, so I'm getting myself all riled up.
No, it's exciting because between you and Paula and the group, it's just, I've been asking myself a lot lately, like, how do I shift? How do I pivot? Because I feel like I got comfortable.
Mm.
And I feel like I've had a lot of conversations with a friend of mine too about how I don't think I'm going to continue the partnership with the other coaches.
Mm.
So I've got to figure out how to navigate that. That's because it's both personal and professional. But I feel like it's allowed me to stay small.
Mm.
It was safe. It was a great opportunity to learn, and I feel like I grew through it, but I grew faster than I thought it would take to grow out of it.
Mm.
And to learn what I like and what I don't like. And so to hear you talk about, it just makes me question, I've talked a lot about working with women who are feeling like same kind of thing, like they've checked the boxes, they either have the job and or the family and the husband or the wife or whatever, and it's just not filling their bucket. And a lot of times the clients I'm working with are on a hamster wheel.
Mm.
So getting them off the hamster wheel is like the first step. And oftentimes that's because it's a worth thing. They're putting people ahead of themselves. They're putting a lot of pressure on themselves. So once we get them there, then it's like, okay, I want to take them further. But they've just gotten their head above water. So it's like, I don't know. And I feel like I have to have all the answers in order to.
Interesting. I think I know what you're saying. It's like they were this close to burnout, and now you've gotten them to a better place, and now you want to push them again.
Mm-hmm. But it's almost, my intuition says it's too soon, because they have to develop the habits of putting themselves into the equation.
I hear you.
And if
Okay.
they don't do that, then, so it's almost like I'd like to, I don't know. I've been playing, I used to offer 6 or 12 sessions. I've recently changed that to a minimum of 8. And I think I'm going to do 8 to 16, or, like something like, I don't know. It's so hard because I've been moving away from like wanting to have a framework for a package, where I was that way maybe 4 weeks ago. I feel like that takes away. I feel like that takes away from that organicness and the power of coaching.
Yeah, because I was just telling someone the other day, it's like I don't understand calendars. I mean, I get calendars, but I don't understand it, because how could you? Half of what it is about like, I expect this to take this amount of time. I'm like, unless you're exactly sure. Like for me, a coaching conversation, right? How long does it take to get someone somewhere?
Right.
That's my best guess.
Right.
But is that a little bit what you mean? It's like, I don't want to know. I don't want to systematize growth.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was falling into that. Like I was trying to, I think 2 things happened parallel. I feel like I had so many clients that I was starting to lose track of. I had too many clients because I was losing track of who, what, when, where, what assignments had I given them. And there's some that are legitimately really good for people to do. But I didn't like that I'd be in a conversation and be like, oh, well, I really would think that you should, during this week, I want you to go do this. Maybe it was the love languages. I want you to learn more about you and your relationships. I want you to check this out. So there's those more structured tools. And then there's the ones that kind of evolve in the conversation where I'm like, oh, this person needs this because of their situation.
Mm-hmm.
But there was value in some of these more formal, like take the PQ. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's a great tool, right? And so that would be a great assignment for somebody to go and take and do, come back and talk about what they learned
Mm.
and how they want to apply that in, like, kind of in your question of what's getting in the way. If you don't know what's getting in the way, maybe this will help you understand.
Yeah. Yeah, because the saboteurs is a good way. Like, I always hesitate about. Yeah, that's interesting. I always hesitate to make things a problem to solve, which is funny because I value being a problem solver for so long, but it for me it's like it's almost as if my job now is to say this isn't a problem to solve. Get above it. Get more creative. You are a cause, not an effect. This is a direct quote from a Steve Chandler book, but it's like you're the one. Well, someone was telling me, like the person that I was talking to yesterday, that they wanted to work with me. She said, "Oh, I want to work with you because you're like a lighthouse. It's like you have a great way of showing someone how they're working, or showing someone the way. And you're like a lighthouse, especially when someone is on a ship and they're holding on to the ropes and they're about to drown." And I did not like that at all. I just kind of went like, I'm nobody's savior.
Mm-hmm.
And during the call, she was saying, yeah, that wasn't what I was trying to say. I just meant that you're, I said, I'm just a mirror. Right. And she goes, yeah, no, that's exactly what I wanted. But I said, but I do want you to recognize that in that analogy, you chose the ship, you chose the ropes, you chose, like, there are certain things that you don't control, the wind or the wave, but everything else you chose. You chose to go out in those waters. You chose. So like, I'm showing you that you're in control, even if it feels like you're out of control, or that everything started with you, even if you feel like everything is against you or moving you around.
Mm-hmm.
So right, so back to what you were saying about, I love those tools. I think it's just it depends, right? Like, you use I love what you said, you use your intuition and you find out. It's like, okay, you're having trouble deciding if you're doing it because you want it or because other people want it. Well, then maybe this tool can help, or that tool can.
Yeah. I mean, even in this conversation, I'm questioning if I use tools too much too. I've used less of them lately.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a thought this, and it's not a new thought, I think, but it felt new. And it's like, I want to be the Bruce Lee of coaching in the sense that I want it to be formless. And I know I'm not the only person to think this and to do this, but it's just like, I'll give you an example. In it, he talks about, before I learned the art, a punch was just a punch and a kick was just a kick. While I was learning the art, a punch was just so much more than a punch, and a kick was so much more than a kick. It explodes in complexity and that kind of thing. He says, once I understand the art, a punch is just a punch and a kick is just a kick.
Mm.
And that's kind of like the curve that I want for me. And then I kind of want that for my clients too. It's that, yeah, for a while, there's some things where it's going to be like, okay, I have to understand mechanically how a punch works.
Mm-hmm.
But the second that you start saying, okay, this is the only way to punch, well, then you're limiting yourself, right?
Yeah.
Or you're trying to kill the truth and make it very simple. But once you've kind of had this breadth and range of experience, then it comes back to like, oh, okay, I've done this so many times, it's familiar, and I can apply it anywhere. So I think that's what the exercises are for. It's like there's that moment where things have to explode, and you need to set things up in between sessions so that they become habits or changes or whatnot. But not but and I guess it's up to our intuition to figure out when that's necessary.
I think that's where I think I ran into an issue. It's like I had too many clients. I was trying to be too methodical, and I thought if I got all my, like I created a note-taking sheet that has all these different things that I'd use, I could use.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then if I used it, I would put a check mark by it. And I'm like, no, this is like, all this stuff is happening for me. All this stuff is happening for me.
Yep.
But then I realized, I'm like, no, I need the note-taking. And I need this kind of note-taking, because I was just doing it like pen and paper. And it was too hard to read through everything. So I took a page from you and Marquise's book, I think. I between the two of you, this is what sparked it.
Gotcha.
And so I'll take notes, but then I'll go into my Google Doc and I'll do a summary of kind of the big stuff. And if I ask them to do an assignment, I wrote that assignment down. So I'm feeling like it's just more of an organized process. So I can go directly to, oh, this is the assignment I gave them. This is the big insight they had. Like, so that's been better. And now I'm not even using the, like, now I'm going to take that off and have that. I mean, I like that because it keeps track of all the tools that I've used. And then if I feel like I've hit a wall, I might go back and revisit and be like, oh, well, that actually could be really good for this person. But I felt like I was so focused on the assignments and the tools versus the conversation. And that was only for a short amount of time, but I didn't like it. I didn't like the coaching. And then I realized I don't need to be coaching so many people. It's too much. It's the exact opposite of what I want and why I started a coaching business.
Yeah, I hear you. It gets back to that image that Rich put in his
Prosperous Coach.
Yeah, I think it is in Prosperous Coach. You got like results, right? And what's the only thing that gets results? Actions. What guides our actions? And then there's I, right? It's like, it's how we see the world and how we speak the world. And so when we're coaches, you can give people actions and that'll help. But if you shift how they see the world, then they can figure out what tools they need. And then we'll give them the tools if they can't figure it out for themselves, right? So the tools aren't the end of because tools feel a lot about giving people means to solve their problems.
Yeah.
And the higher quality people that we work with, quality is a strong word, but you know what I mean? The more capable, the more impressive, the more like the high caliber, let's say, the people who are traditionally successful, but who need our help, don't need help always, don't always need strategy. They just like, hey, had you noticed that you act as if this is true? Or did you notice that you seem to have made this decision without even having consciously made it or whatever? Then on the other side of that, that's when we see like, oh, they either need help like developing a tool, or they need a tool or something like that, or the mindset shift was enough, and then they can go on, and because they're seeing things differently now, they'll just start building their own habits and there's things in that.
Yeah.
So that's what came up just now when you were talking about that. I was like, oh yeah, that's the difference between like mindset coaching and tool coaching.
Yeah, I agree. And I can't remember if that's from his book or not, but I remember it. So I think you're right. I think it is in Rich's stuff, but
yeah. And it just comes to like, for the intensive, a lot of my problem was like, yeah, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room as a coach. Like when I make myself responsible for them and their growth and that sort of thing, that's when I get like desperate. And that's when I get like, oh, I have to, manifest, versus I can just be like, nope, I'm going to show up with zero expectations. It's very martial artsy. I'm going to be a perfect mirror. I'm not going to try to fix.
You're not going to try to fix, sorry.
Yeah. I'm not going to try and fix. I'm going to show up and I'm going to show you what you can't see from the inside. I'm going to just be a perfect mirror. And then based on that, we'll play with that. But to take responsibility for another person's like,
I think that's where I've really struggled too, is I feel like I'd say I wasn't attached to their results, but I was attached to their results because I was wrapping up my own worth into it.
that makes sense. I mean, it's easy to
And
do, but yeah.
yeah, and if they're not growing, then I'm like, oh, I suck. I'm a terrible coach.
Yeah.
But I will say, listening to you talk, and I'm going to get cheesy because we're doing this, but like my saboteurs are coming up like, oh, you're not that good of a coach. You don't coach mindset. You coach problem. You like,
Yeah. And what are you going to say back to them though? That's
like, oh, I hear you. And maybe there's some truth to that, but there's only truth to that because I've listened to that voice.
yeah.
You should bring in more tools. Don't trust just you. It can't just be you. It can't just be you showing up powerfully or being a mirror. You don't have that ability. Like, it's a freaking party up here right now.
You know what I love? I hear you. I totally hear you. And I love that you're struggling with that, because that's why I think the PQ program is a good fit for you too. It's this idea of like, yeah, sure, those are the voices, but what are the voice you're going to listen to?
Right.
Because I don't even want to spend much time arguing with those voices. I don't have to justify anything to them. They're just trying to protect me, right? Or they're just trying to protect you. But you can say, nope, thanks.
Yeah.
And I'm going to listen to this voice, because this voice is, it's more intimidating, but it's exciting. Or that's actually where I know I need to go. And I really do think that they've got this interesting spin on it, because that's what I would say. Like, all right, let's stop about fear. Let's stop approaching things from the point of view of fear.
Yeah.
Creative, explorative, whatever. That's why I say, what do you want to create?
Yeah.
It's so simple. And I'll tell you what too, it's when we want to work with like really, really powerful, successful, engaging people, it's what really helped cement it for me. It's, I think of like an athlete coach, like a guy who specializes in getting an athlete all the way to here, like to the Olympics or to
Right.
whatever, right? How do they go after people, or do people who really want to perform come to them? And do the coach go like, oh man, I have to make sure that he makes that thing, or just like, does he count on the athlete wanting to say like, you better, like, we're going to work together, you better be interested in, like, excelling should be coming from within you. I ain't pushing you. I'm going to push you, but I'm not going to drag you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if that burning motivation, if that's not in you, then this is going to fall flat, because you're just going to resent me. I'm going to push you, and you're going to flop or disappear, that sort of thing. And that's not going to serve either of us. So I love this idea of like the people who want coaching as a means of exploding their creativity and performance and building their life are the people who, if you tap into that desire, they're going to show up. And I cannot make myself responsible for them.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does. It totally does. And that's, I think the more and more we have these conversations, the more and more I see like things are getting illuminated, which is my whole goal. My whole goal is that we illuminate the most amazing life that we can have. But it's interesting because I market, and I don't like the word market, but I've shown up to people who are going through something that I've been through. I'm on the other side of. Mm-hmm. And that's great. I can do that. And I like to do that. I like to be able to help especially moms who are in that space, get out of that space. But I need to go further. I want them to go further. And I realized that, like, when you're talking about like high achieving people, higher caliber of effort and drive and aspirations, I'm like, those people scare me. I have nothing to offer them. Like, that's again, and it's like, okay, so no wonder I'm working with this, and that's okay. These are fine. But it just makes me wonder if I did something like you, in the sense of like, hey, got 2 spots, we're gonna have a powerful conversation. And something in my words, but essentially what you're saying, like what people would show up then. And it's interesting because I actually had a friend, we'll call her a friend, an acquaintance that used to be on a PT at a school I was an instructional coach at. And she has followed me through different things in Facebook and my personal page and then my business page. And she reached out and she said, hey, I was wondering if we could work together. What would that look like? Well, she's going through a divorce. She has not worked since her kids were babies. And I am like, honey, you show up for me and you work your tail off. I'll be here for you every week. Don't even worry about, let's not even worry about that right now. Let's get you to a place that you feel like you can write a new book for your life. And I tell you what, every time we get together, it is a powerful conversation. So it's not even money involved. And I think she's an exceptional person. That's why I offered her to I'd serve her if she promised to show up for me, because she was a hell yes for me. Even though she's in probably the darkest hour of her life right now. And so it makes me wonder, like, there's evidence there. Like, I'm always looking for evidence, like, because I don't want to fail. So I'm always looking for evidence to prove that, well, when you tried this, you got this result.
So what you're saying is,
like, well, and it wasn't even intentional. It was just, that's how it evolved.
Yeah. But I love that you said that. You're looking for proof that it's okay, but it's always on the other side of trying.
Yeah.
The proof is on the other side of trying. I like that. In fact, I'm going to write that down. That's a great.
Yeah, I think I better too.
I always like to say, like, everything you want is on the other side of an uncomfortable conversation, but proof is on the other side of trying is also very good. And it's tapped into you, right? If you're someone who's looking for, like, I want confidence. You don't need confidence. You can't even have confidence. Confidence is like, you need courage, then you get competence, then you get confidence. If you're trying to put it in advance, that's not going to work unless you have like some sort of experience in what you're doing. Of course, it's going to be scary.
And I think that might be the pitfall I've fallen into is I do have experience, but it's such a mediocre, like it's, I don't know.
Include and transcend.
What do you mean by that? Because I like that, but I think I'm making an assumption of what you mean. So when you say that, what do you mean?
It's a part of what you were. You're not losing any of it. All that you had is a part of you, and the rest is just, I'm moving on and then getting this other level. So I have that perspective, that experience in that way, and now I'm just but one step higher. I'm just building on top of that, and beyond that, I'm including it, but I'm still transcending it.
Gotcha. Include and transcend. Yeah.
That's a very rich thing to do. But, I mean, what I love more and more is like, I realize, oh, it's like, even if I couldn't necessarily be a CEO, right? Or I don't think I'd be in it. I'd be curious to see what it would look like to be a CEO. I can, by the sheer fact that I am not like that person, offer something to them, right? Not only am I a mirror, but I don't think the way most people do. So I'm going to like throw out ways of looking at things that most people wouldn't. And so it's just like different way of seeing things. And all of a sudden, proof is on the other side of trying. Like just getting these little, like, that's what I love. Insights aren't brilliant. They're just a different way of looking at something. Like literally putting lenses to someone, and they'll try it on. And if it makes sense for them, then it shifts. If it doesn't, it's just like a fortune cookie. It can be pointless.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It can be pointless to someone else and world shaking or world changing to the other person.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's spiritual judo. It's like, if you apply the right force in the right direction, whoop, all of a sudden you've effortlessly flipped them on their side. But if you just you're going around trying to throw people, it's just not going to work.
Right. There's so much coming up in this conversation for me, in the sense of like, too, I'm like, I have always been a different thinker, but it's always been bad.
Yeah.
People look at me like, what? Where'd that come from?
I hear you.
So, have you ever felt that way?
There is a Twitter feed out there that my coworkers put out. It's still out there, I think. I think it's called Shit Seb Says, just because like they thought it was hilarious, the things I was saying. Some of them, it's because it was like, oh, that's insightful, but also weird. And like, nobody thinks like that. And so, yeah, a really good way to make people to make themselves feel good is to lower the barrier of understanding or raise the bar of understanding. Like, I'm not going to try to understand you. I'm just going to dismiss you. Right. Mm-hmm. So yes, I absolutely have felt that. And what I've noticed is when I decide that's not important and I throw myself, like I talk to coaches who are in 4PC, I just reach out to everybody. And it's like, oh, I can hang with these people. This isn't, because as soon as I take my ego out of it and I'm just curious and I start asking questions and just show up the way I am, that's all I need. And if I were exactly like them, it wouldn't be a very interesting conversation anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
And like people like us have had to question more than others too. Like, right? It's like, well, why doesn't this work? And what is this really about? Because it's not that easy for me. So, and we start thinking in different ways so that people who can do it effortlessly never had to question why they do it in the first place.
That's interesting. And I think there's a lot of weight to that.
Just a heads up, I got 10 minutes left before I have to go. I got a hard out at 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So to take that, and I will say that is probably your biggest strength. Everything that is different about you, as much as it was something that people made you feel, or maybe you made yourself feel as well, right?
Right.
Uncomfortable about. That's what's going to raise your game too.
Yeah. It's been really, it's just been really cool to watch everyone grow and make this whole thing their own and what's calling to them. And there's so many shifts that we've all made.
It really is. Yeah, it kind of feels like graduating high school. I mean, even the fact that we're the only two people on this call today, it's that people are busy out there doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And at some point, like I keep threatening to do this, but it's like, we're going to have to make this either more worthwhile or just keep it what it is, like more worthwhile in the sense of like, maybe we need to go back to coaching each other, but I don't know, maybe it's a good place to decompress and actually meet with people and say like, this is what I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
That could be our own 4PC, right? Which I think is what Paula was suggesting anyway.
Yeah. I think it would be, I hope that we can keep the value of it and the connection of it. I think the connection is what has kept me, even though I haven't leaned into my edge until just recently, it's kept me. If I hadn't have had this, I would have been living small.
Yeah, community is super important. It really is.
And there's something about, I don't know if it's this, and maybe I'm just putting a lot of eggs in one basket, but I really like our community. Like, there's just something about how we all came together, the way we came together, who we are.
Mm,
It's pretty cool.
I agree. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Like 4PC are just people who are literally paying $25,000 a year to manufacture that, if so to speak, right?
And I'm not very familiar with it. I mean, I know just the basics of it.
My I have someone who's joining this year who's a friend of mine, and I've talked to a few people who were already in it. And basically, in fact, I think Rich wrote in fact, like literally a few days ago. Nope, other one. Yeah, he wrote that. Yeah, knowing what business you're really in. It's a really good email. For PC, success is a cost. It's often lonelier and more painful than you think. You can be at the top of your field and still feel like a fraud. You can have everything you've ever wanted and still feel empty inside. I've created a community of the world's most fascinating coaches because elite top performers love to be surrounded by people who think big and accomplish bigger. That's really all it is, right?
That's absolutely.
And it's like, we can be that for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You can put money
Well,
around it and whatnot, but you can show
yeah,
it.
yeah, absolutely. I want to be respectful of your time. So,
Oh, good. We got 5 minutes left. If uh, what would be an interesting way to what would be an interesting way to wrap up? I love everything we talked about today. I think that the what I love is like you're saying, and that you're leaning into your edge more and more. I think that's super exciting to hear. And I keep thinking, it's like, yeah, the deeper you go with you, the more powerfully you're going to serve everyone else because you'll have gone there first, right?
Yeah.
That's another part of confidence.
Yeah.
Like you've explored this area and now you get it. So I think it's maybe you can clarify something for me. That friend that you reached out, was that something that you told her, or is that something that you wanted to tell her?
Which one?
The friend who was getting divorced.
She reached out to me. I
Mm-hmm.
said, let's have a session together.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it, and this is what I am going to stop proposing. I'm going to do, like, I think what you and Paula are doing, in the sense of, let's just have conversations until it feels like a hell yes. And if it doesn't, then I kind of like that idea too for you of, like, right now, why don't you go do these things for a few months and then let's come back. She asked me, and that's when I just said, she's like, I don't know when I can meet with you. I don't have very much right now. I don't even have access to our finances right now. And she's like, but I do want to work with you. And so I'm wondering what that would look like. And then that's when I was like, that's what I said to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she has shown up powerfully every time, even in tears and even on bad days.
There you go. Like money is just a tool. It is a
Yeah.
tool to get their commitment and to get their investment, but
Yeah.
it's all made up and we're just
Yeah.
serving.
Yeah. And I do think that I have to have that healthy balance of, it does encourage me to see fewer people at a higher, and I'm at the point where if I have too many clients, I should be able to raise my rates and not worry. I mean, just in the sense of business and
You
supply and
should
demand.
double them or triple them. Yeah.
I know. You're not the first person to tell me that. But this was a good step. It was a good step. It is a tool to keep me making sure that I play bigger, because I want this to be a viable option. This is what I want to be doing every day. not just part-time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I hear it. And I know that you're going to be great at it. It's just, I'm curious about like, what do you think the next step is? And how can you skip that one? Like, what do you think? What's 3 steps further? Because I think you're ready. Like,
And that's, I have a problem. Like, this is what's hard for me. If I don't have a picture of the, like, if I don't, and
mm.
in the 1 minute that we have left, I have a hard time getting that big picture. That's where I start to be like living small. It's like, I just need this to support me.
mm.
And that's where I've been in the last few years. And I think that's how I fell into the trap. That's not the right word, but I fell into the partnership with, and I took them up on that because it was easy.
Oh, okay. Then I think I got it. What about a mission? I think you have it. You've articulated it, but I like, is it something that you commit to every morning? Like, have you articulated it? Because for me, it's like, I want to help help the world have better relationship with themselves and others.
Mm-hmm.
That's still not powerful enough for me, I think. That's why I have to package it with like, and be the most powerful coach in the world, because that ticks it up a notch.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what's that for you? What's that mission that will get you, like, switch you over from the idea of like, what can I get, to what am I out for?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's hard because I'm usually about, and maybe it's not what am I out for or what do I get. I'm doing, how can I serve? How can I serve and then be able to do this all the time?
Mm.
But I think that's where it's like, well, okay, here's some people that need to be served, and the compensation for that is very low, which is fine. But then I took on 10 people instead of 1.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So how can I serve? Who do I want to serve? And how do I want to serve them?
Okay.
That sounds like the 3 things that sound like.
And I feel like I did that, and I think I need to do it again because I think it's changed.
It's easy to, yeah, exactly. Well,
So say that again.
how can I serve? Who do I want to serve? And how do I want to serve them? Like, what are your terms?
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to do that
Okay.
too. Because on the other hand, it's like, the more powerful conversations you'll have, and I'm talking to me at the same time, the more powerful conversations you have, the more patterns will evolve. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm resonating with these people. I don't think, there's a part of me that thinks we're still in the beginning of our journey, in the sense of like, okay, once we've really had like 100 powerful conversations, then you're going to start to know like, oh, you know what? I tend to work with female leaders of companies, or
right.
I tend to work with creative people who are trying to bust through, and just like, I resonate better with those. We need that experience too. And we shouldn't expect to have it right away.
Right. And I think that evolves.
Exactly.
Or at least it is for me, because I'm thinking a year ago, that was it.
Mm.
And now I'm like, I don't know if that's it.
So much bigger.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Anyways,
all right.
Seb, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
All right. Have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too. All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.